She was America's TV mom, the poised, wise, and graceful Claire Huxtable, a woman who seemed to have it all together. But behind the comforting smile and elegant presence was a real woman with a life even more fascinating than the character she portrayed. This is the story of Phylicia Rashad, actress, educator, cultural icon, whose journey has been defined by love, heartbreak, resilience, controversy, and an unwavering commitment to her craft. From her serene home in Mount Vernon to the bright lights of Broadway and the storm of public scrutiny, Rashad's life is a testament to grace under pressure and the enduring power of art. Just north of New York City, in the quiet, tree-lined suburb of Mount Vernon, stands the home that has been Rashad's anchor for years. More than just a residence, it is a sanctuary, a two-story mini-mansion with traditional architecture, tucked into lush grounds and shaded by mature trees. The manicured lawns and peaceful setting mirror the woman herself, elegant, understated, and deeply rooted in a sense of history. This is not a Hollywood hideaway. It's a place steeped in legacy. Her mother, the acclaimed poet and scholar Vivian Ayres Allen, once lived in the area, and Rashad's decision to remain here is as much about connection as comfort. Inside, the home is a living reflection of her passions. Walls lined with books, rooms adorned with art, and cultural mementos that tell the story of a life immersed in theater, music, and history. Family heirlooms sit alongside awards and framed photographs from decades of groundbreaking work. It's a space where creativity breathes, and where Rashad gives back, hosting acting masterclasses for young talent in partnership with local schools and arts organizations. In this home, art is not just displayed, it's lived. But in the summer of 2003, Rashad's artistic journey pulled her across the country. She had taken on the role of Aunt Esther in Gem of the Ocean, the first chronological play in August Wilson's legendary Pittsburgh cycle. It was a part that demanded deep emotional excavation, and she needed a place that could nourish both her spirit and her craft. In Santa Monica, just steps from the beach, she leased a charming two-bedroom, two-bath condominium. The unit's cozy fireplace became her refuge after long days of rehearsals. A Spanish-style courtyard, with terracotta floors and potted plants, offered quiet mornings with tea under the California sun. Most importantly, the condo was just minutes from her sister, Debbie Allen. The two share a famously close bond, and in that summer, Debbie's home became both a place of comfort and an artistic salon, a space for late-night conversations, creative exchange, and the kind of grounding only family can give. For Rashad, the condo wasn't just a place to sleep between grueling rehearsals. It was a workshop for the soul, a quiet, sunlit refuge where she could shed the noise of the outside world and step fully into the spiritual weight of Aunt Esther. The flicker of the fireplace became her evening ritual, a place where scripts weren't just read but absorbed, where lines turned into lived memories. The Spanish-style courtyard was her morning sanctuary, a spot where the Pacific breeze carried with it not just salt air, but a sense of clarity. Here, under California's gentle sun, she rehearsed lines in solitude, letting Wilson's poetic words settle into her bones. But artistry, for Rashad, has always existed alongside a deeply personal journey, one marked by love, heartbreak, and transformation. Her first marriage, in 1972, to dentist William Lancelot Bowles Jr., came at a time when she was still carving her place in the theater world. The two shared dreams of building a life together, and the birth of their son, William III, in 1973, brought immense joy. Motherhood was more than a role, it was an anchor. Amid auditions, rehearsals, and the uncertainty of a budding career, she found purpose in the steady rhythm of caring for her child. Yet, the pressures of two demanding paths, her own as a rising actress and his as a professional, placed strains on the marriage. After just 3 years, they quietly parted ways in 1975. The separation was not a bitter tabloid spectacle but a private decision, handled with the same dignity Rashad would later become known for. Still, it marked the beginning of a delicate balancing act she would maintain for decades, the art of pursuing creative excellence while being an ever-present mother. That early period, the quiet condo mornings, the tender moments with her young son, the personal losses, would shape her for the rest of her life. It gave her a reservoir of emotional truth to draw from, both on stage and off. In roles of strength and resilience, whether as Aunt Esther or Claire Huxtable, audiences could feel it. the lived experience of a woman who knew how to hold her ground, love fiercely, and keep creating in the face of life's inevitable changes. In 1978, during her celebrated run in The Wiz on Broadway, a groundbreaking reimagining of The Wizard of Oz featuring an all-black cast, Phylicia Rashad's personal life took an unexpected turn. Amid the whirlwind of rehearsals, curtain calls, and the electric atmosphere of live theater, she met Victor Willis, the charismatic original lead singer of the Village People. Willis, with his powerful voice and commanding stage presence, was as magnetic offstage as he was in front of an audience. Their connection was immediate, a meeting of two artists at the height of their creative energy. The romance unfolded quickly, fueled by the shared language of performance and the thrill of being young, talented, and in love in New York City's vibrant entertainment scene. Within a short time, they married, a union that seemed, at first, like a perfect fusion of music and theater. But as their careers pulled them in different directions, the pressures of fame and artistic ambition began to strain the relationship. By 1982, the marriage had come to a quiet end. Though brief, it was another chapter in Rashad's journey of love and self-discovery, and another lesson in resilience. Just a few years later, in 1985, the world watched as her love life became headline news. On Thanksgiving Day, during a live NFL broadcast between the New York Jets and the Detroit Lions, sportscaster and former wide receiver Ahmad Rashad turned to the camera and asked her to marry him. It was bold, heartfelt, and completely unexpected. Millions of viewers saw the proposal unfold in real time, a gesture that would go down as one of the most public declarations of love in television history. She said yes. Weeks later, the two were married in a ceremony that blended star power with deep personal bonds. Bill Cosby, her Cosby Show co-star and close friend, walked her down the aisle. A year later, in December 1986, they welcomed their daughter, Condola. From the very beginning, it was clear Condola had inherited her mother's artistic spirit. She would grow into a celebrated actress herself, continuing the family legacy on stage and screen, a living reminder of a love story that began in front of millions and left its own imprint on pop culture. The marriage lasted until 2001, and though it ended in divorce, she kept the Rashad name. By then, Phylicia Rashad had become not just a personal identity, but a professional legacy, synonymous with excellence, representation, and dignity. Rashad's long-standing friendship with Bill Cosby began when they were cast as television's most beloved couple. On The Cosby Show, they reshaped the image of African-American family life for millions of viewers. Off-screen, they became close friends, a bond so strong that Cosby gave her away at her wedding. But decades later, when Cosby was convicted of aggravated indecent assault in 2018, that bond would thrust Rashad into controversy. In 2021, when his conviction was overturned on a legal technicality, she tweeted, "Finally, a terrible wrong is being righted. A miscarriage of justice is corrected." The backlash was immediate and fierce. Critics accused her of dismissing the voices of survivors, and calls for her resignation as Dean of the College of Fine Arts at Howard University rang out. Howard publicly distanced itself from her comments, reaffirming its commitment to survivor advocacy. Rashad issued an apology to students, clarifying that she opposed sexual violence and never intended to cause harm. It was a moment that tested the balance between personal loyalty and public accountability, and one that would remain a complicated chapter in her story. Born on June 19, 1948, in Houston, Texas, Phylicia Ayres Allen entered the world already surrounded by the hum of ambition and artistry. Hers was a household where words, ideas, and cultural pride were as essential as food on the table. Her mother, Vivian Ayres, was not only a Pulitzer Prize-nominated poet and scholar, but also a fierce champion of education, the arts, and African-American heritage. She was a woman whose intellect could fill a room and whose determination set the tone for her children's lives. Her father, Andrew Arthur Allen, was a respected orthodontist, precise, steady, and deeply committed to his profession. Where Vivian brought poetry and the sweep of history into their lives, Andrew offered structure, discipline, and the quiet reassurance of a man who understood the value of hard work. When Phylicia was 6, her parents divorced, a change that could have fractured the family's foundation. Yet, both parents remained constant, each contributing to her growth in distinct and powerful ways. She learned early that love and influence could exist beyond the boundaries of marriage. She was one of 4 siblings, each brimming with talent and individuality. Her older brother, Tex, would become a gifted jazz musician. Her younger sister, Debbie Allen, would rise to fame as a celebrated dancer, choreographer, and actress. Another brother, Hugh, chose a more traditional path, building a career in real estate banking. The heirs Allen children were raised to believe that their dreams were worth pursuing, and that excellence was the only acceptable standard. At 13, Phylicia's life took a dramatic turn when her mother made a bold, unconventional decision to move with her daughters to Mexico City. Vivian wanted to shield them from the stifling realities of segregation in the American South and offer them an education without racial barriers. The shift was transformative. Immersed in a new culture, Phylicia became fluent in Spanish, developed a global perspective, and began to understand her identity in a deeper, more nuanced way. That early exposure to art, discipline, resilience, and cultural diversity would become the bedrock of her life, qualities she would carry into every role, every performance, and every chapter of her remarkable career. She was one of 4 siblings, including her sister Debbie Allen, who would become a celebrated choreographer and actress, and her brother Tex, a jazz musician. At 13, her mother moved the family to Mexico City to escape segregation in the American South and to provide her daughters with an education free from racial barriers. The move transformed Phylicia, giving her fluency in Spanish, a global worldview, and a deep understanding of cultural identity. Returning to the U.S., she attended Howard University, majoring in theater and graduating magna cum laude in 1970. She joined Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, aligning herself with a legacy of Black female leadership and service. Rashad's career began on the stage in the 1970s, with roles in musicals like The Wiz and Dreamgirls, but her defining role came in 1984 as Claire Huxtable. Over 8 seasons, she became a cultural icon, portraying a Black woman who was not only a devoted mother, but also a successful Yale-educated attorney, a revolutionary image for primetime television. Her stage career flourished alongside her TV work. In 2004, she became the first Black woman to win the Tony Award for Best Actress in a play for her portrayal of Lena Younger in A Raisin in the Sun. She brought similar brilliance to August Wilson's Gem of the Ocean, later directing his works, including Fences and Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. In 2022, she won her 2nd Tony Award for Skeleton Crew, proving her artistry was as sharp and relevant as ever. In 2021, she returned to Howard University, this time as Dean of the College of Fine Arts. For 3 years, she reshaped the program, blending classical training with cultural consciousness and mentoring the next generation of artists. She urged her students to honor heritage, master technique, and approach storytelling with responsibility. From Mount Vernon to Broadway, from Santa Monica's sunlit courtyards to the storied halls of Howard University, Phylicia Rashad's life is a study in contrasts. Elegance and resilience, loyalty and controversy, tradition and transformation. She is a woman who has mastered the delicate art of holding her head high in moments of triumph and in the face of storms. A woman who has allowed the seasons of her life to shape her without ever surrendering her core identity. In her Mount Vernon home, she is the quiet curator of a life steeped in history and art, surrounded by heirlooms, books, and reminders of the countless roles she has embodied. On Broadway, she is a commanding presence, delivering performances so layered that they leave audiences holding their breath. In Santa Monica, she found the solitude to breathe life into characters that carried the weight of generations. At Howard University, she walked the same hallways where she once studied, now guiding the next wave of artists with a firm but gentle hand. Her life has been marked by dazzling achievements and complicated chapters. A celebrated actress, a devoted mother, a loyal friend, and a figure unafraid to stand by her convictions, even when those convictions drew fire. She has been both praised and criticized, adored and questioned, yet through it all, she has remained undeniably herself. What makes her story enduring is not just her resume of iconic roles or her historic awards, but the quiet truth that runs beneath them. Phylicia Rashad has lived her art as much as she has performed it. She has brought to her characters the wisdom of personal loss, the depth of a mother's love, the strength found in resilience, and the elegance of a life dedicated to craft. Her journey reminds us that icons are not simply defined by the characters they play, but by the choices they make, the storms they survive, and the legacy they leave behind. And in Rashad's case, that legacy is one of artistry, dignity, and an unshakable belief in the transformative power of telling our stories, truthfully, fully, and without apology.